What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dean, aka the Blue Crusader, and with high request, it seems that I'm going to be doing a Terraria video today, and more specifically a hard mode video on how to fight one of the first 3 hard mode bosses, which also includes the Destroyer and Skeletron Prime. But in this video, I'm going to be showing you how to defeat the twins, and which method I used, and all the tips which I learned from reading a lot of guides and material on the internet to defeat the twins myself. Now, this boss was pretty hard. I did try this a few times until I got the right items and the right method down, but this is the first save which I actually cleared most of the hard mode content which I hadn't even touched before. So if I can do this, you can do it. So I'm going to run through the boss's stats, abilities, strategies, and the best items to use. So this is probably the hardest or second hardest of all 3 to defeat, probably after the Destroyer, which is probably the easiest. Basically, these are a mechanical version of the Eye of Cthulhu, but harder, which is made of 2 eyes which are linked by a tendril. So this is the hard mode counterpart, which is a lot tougher. They are Retinaza and Spasmatism. These are both of the eyes in this boss fight, and each of them have different abilities, so targeting each first, one specifically at a time, has its benefits. First of all, to summon the boss, you'll need the mechanical eye at night, or 10% chance to spawn at dusk after crimson or demon altars are destroyed. So if you destroy a crimson altar or a demon altar, there is actually a chance that these can spawn at dusk and randomly just initiate a boss fight without you summoning it. This is pretty similar to how a lot of other bosses have a chance to randomly spawn. If you don't kill them by dawn time though, they will fly up and despawn like a lot of the bosses you have to defeat at night time, so it is a rush to defeat them if you spawn the boss quite late. The bosses in total have a max life of 43,000 health points. As with all fights, setting up an arena is paramount for this one. Making a simple multi-story arena with some wooden platforms is sufficient, like you see that I did. I made multiple platforms just to give myself some leeway on where I was moving and make it a lot easier to dodge. The second phase of this fight is pretty tough, so you're gonna need a lot of space to move around in, and to be honest, my space was still pretty tight as it was, so I'd recommend building the same sort of level as I did, but make it a lot longer, because there wasn't really much movement I could do in this tight space. So you want to make a very tall and long arena so you can kite these guys pretty easy. You will use this arena basically to hop up and down and jump around on to prevent fall damage, and also to dodge the melee attacks and lasers, just like you did in the Eye of Cthulhu fight on normal, which I presume everyone's done at this point if they're watching this video. Now, I'd recommend using campfires alongside your arena and use any bonuses or buffs that will help you in the fight. I found using a mount like the unicorn, which I'm using in this video, is very useful for moving around in the fight, and it also gives you an extra jump. Lightning boots or any kind of speed boots or rocket boots are also great. I'd recommend combining speed boots and rocket boots at the Goblin Tinkerer so you have a good item for mobility. Weapon choices I use that I'd recommend for this fight though are the Mini Shark, which doesn't do much damage output but it shoots really fast, which you can buy from the Arms Guy NPC. Now later in hard mode you can upgrade this to the Mega Shark, which is a whole bunch better, but at this stage you're not going to be able to use that. I also heavily recommend the Daedalus Stormbow, which I learned from watching other videos, and I'd recommend using holy or explosive arrows like I did with this. This thing is a godsend, and it basically gives you high damage output but with little focus on having to watch where you're aiming. This is because the arrows fire from the sky and they do huge damage. Upgrading this to Unreal by reforging it at the Goblin NPC is super useful too for better stats. If you have the money and gold, I'd recommend doing that so you get the most damage and bonuses to the item that you can do. You can get this item by farming 15 Souls of Light or 15 Souls of Night, which are found in each of their respective areas, so that's the Crimson or the Corruption and Hallow in the underground areas of each of these biomes, just by killing mobs. Using these you can then craft a Key of Night or Key of Light, depending which ones that you grinded for, and you can put these keys in a chest, and once you exit the chest it will spawn a Corrupt, Crimson or Hallowed Mimic. When you defeat these are basically fake chests, which are actually pretty tough at the start to defeat. It's like defeating a mini boss in itself when you don't have many items, but when you defeat them you can just basically repeat this process until you get the right drop. It is a grind. I had to defeat like 5 or 6 of these until I got the bow drop, but it's definitely worth it because it makes the fight so much easier. So let's run over the boss abilities, stats, and the phases. So there are 2 different eyes which we've gone over. So the first one, which is Retina Retinaser is the red coloured eye that shoots lasers. Spasmatism is the green coloured eye that fires flames and applies the cursed Inferno debuff if you run into the flames. In phase 1, Spasmatism does 50 melee damage and 50 cursed flame damage. Retinaser does 45 melee damage and 40 damage from his eye lasers. When we move on to phase 2, Retinaser does 67 melee damage, 50 damage with the death lasers, and an additional 36 rapid fire based damage. Spasmatism's phase 2 stats are 75 melee damage and 60 damage from his eye fire. His second phase is like the Eye of Cthulhu's second lunging melee phase, which is super dangerous, but he also has a flamethrower as well, so I'd really recommend trying to take down this guy first because he's extremely dangerous. The bosses will jump into their second phases basically when their health dips to 40%. Focusing one eye and defeating it completely first is the best strategy that I found personally to work. Fighting two in their second form makes it so much harder to do this fight. In this fight, I'd recommend killing Spasmatism as fast as possible because his melee attacks in phase 2 are not only super dangerous, but since he's so close to you and applying a constant flamethrower debuff, it makes dodging the other lasers super hard and nearly impossible. Spasmatism in his mechanical mouth form chases the player with a lot of speed and range, and his cursed flamethrower is the most dangerous of the two abilities from the bosses. Retinaser only fires projectiles in this second phase and stops ramming the player, so he's a lot less dangerous and most of his abilities are just simple dodges. So if you defeat Spasmatism and you only have Retinaser as the last remaining eye, it's a pretty easy boss fight from there. He shoots quicker and with more damage and sometimes in barrages though, so if you do get hit it can definitely hurt, but he's the eye that you want to have remaining last because he's a lot easier to tackle. You'll definitely need to utilize healing potions and buffs in this part of the fight, but like I said, I recommend nuking down Spasmatism as fast as you can if you want to make this fight easier, and you can alternate from the Mini Shark and Daedalus Stormbow. Daedalus Stormbow is great to hit both eyes at once because it's an AoE area of effect weapon, so you can hit multiple targets, but when you want to get that precision speed shooting, I'd recommend switching to the Mini Shark to try and rapid fire shoot down the eye that you want to focus that you've chosen to kill first, which I think you should do for Spasmatism. So it's good to alternate between these two weapons or use any other powerful ranged weapon to fight them down. Now I play mainly as a melee / ranged, so I did use ranged in this fight. If you're melee, I'd recommend using a weapon that has some kind of ranged based attack, so swords that shoot projectiles or swords with good knockback for an example and good range so that you don't get hit while you're trying to strike the boss. Basically any items that can hit the boss from range and any items you can use to move faster, jump higher and use for mobility will help you in this fight. So I hope these tips have been useful for anyone who's playing Terraria in this year and trying to fight the twins when they reach hard mode for the first time. This is pretty simple knowledge for anyone that's played the game before, but as a first time hard mode player myself who's owned the game for a long time but has only just defeated the twins, I thought I'd recommend my tips which will work for you because if I can defeat it, anyone can. So make sure to like the video, drop a comment below if you had any other different tips or if you defeated the twins in a different way to how I did to help other people with other strategies, and make sure to subscribe because I'm going to be bringing out a lot of guides on Terraria and Terraria hard mode in the upcoming weeks. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.